Yeah, 13 is a lucky number. Don't you slander it that way. Yeah. The only little bit of luck that I experience is when I picked the number 13. So, mhm. I could probably think of one if I thought hard enough. There's not, like, any big story, just I have terrible luck, but whenever I pick 13, and it's ooh, no, no. In your case, not score. Dang, dang. Tripling your output in 1 year, or 1 game, rather. Mm. Did you look at somebody's wife inappropriately? I don't remember. Huh, there you go, there you go. I didn't realize that was the same team, okay. The soft dumps. Ow. All 4 lines, baby, all 4 lines. Yes. Um, Ovechkin. We're just gonna dive right into it. Yeah, sounds about right. I didn't check how many games they've played, but exactly. Well, yep, yep. And we've got somewhere in the realm of 30 to 35-ish games left, and he's only gotta get 20 goals. So, he needs to pick up the pace slightly, but barely. He'll be alright. That'll be the reason. Yeah. The unfortunate part is if he ends up pushing it off till next year, everybody's gonna wanna go to every game because they wanna see him break the record. There's no shot I'm getting tickets when they come to Utah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, nobody cares. Yeah, Ovechkin who? I do still need to see him. I missed the one time that they were coming to town this year. Ooh, ooh. So Stuart Skinner's the one we have to blame for this. He could be 18 away right now if Stuart Skinner wasn't so selfish. Yeah. They are right. Yeah, Washington's scary right now. Got him. Oh, would you look at this? Yeah, I don't know where this leading the league came from. We were briefly discussing before we went live here. Um, feels like it was only a week or 2 ago that we're, "Oh, look, Washington, they're starting to make a name for themselves. They're definitely outperforming what we thought for them." And yeah, there you go. Was that okay. Mhm. Yep. 11 games and what was that, 19 points out of those 11 games. That's 19 out of a total of 22 possible points. Mhm. 6-game win streak. See, loss overtime, lost shootout. That's gross, dude. Oh, yeah, they're gross under Todd McClellan. They lost to the Sharks in OT, that's embarrassing. Washington is washed. It's true, that was the slap in the face they needed. Yeah, they're just scary right now. Yeah, yep. First in differential. Yep. I mean, plus 25, plus 30 goals, it's like, you're a pretty good plus 54, just past the halfway mark. Now I'm curious. Yeah. Oh, never mind. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's yeah, fine's about the most perfect word you can come up with for him. Um, he's not good, but he had that one season when they went to the cup that he was incredible, and then he has absolutely sucked ever since. And he's kind of leveled out in the middle. He's fine. He's serviceable. Um, yeah, Logan Thompson. I mean, both Washington goalies. Let's be real here. I mean, it's not even just Thompson. Whoever they're other than the own goal that he scored a couple of weeks ago, he's been incredible too. You know? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not Kemper. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Dude, my brain is not working today. I can't read things. I know. I know I will. What's the next letter? KYNANS. L-E. I don't know. Lindgren! That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's not bad at all. You're in a good situation when he's your backup. I'd like you to have a good trade for him. Yeah, so as soon as Ingram came back, Stauber got put back down in the AHL. Um, shut up.
Well, that's awkward.
Are you serious?
So OBS had an update this morning, and I always forget that
No.
when OBS, when OBS updates, it for some reason completely kicks out my microphone. Oh my god.
We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live.
Oh my stars.
We're not talking about the Stars, we're talking about the Caps. Yeah. They've been able to hear my microphone though, right?
Yes,
So
yes, they've been able to hear you this whole time. So you've been talking to yourself. Oh my goodness. Okay, so to summarize, everyone, Ovi, he scored 3 goals in the last 2 weeks. He's down to 20 to go. Washington, really good, super good, so good. And then I was saying how Logan Thompson has been a big reason why, and how he was completely snapped. They need to switch Montembeault with Logan Thompson for the Four Nations Cup for Team Canada, and yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, just on that note, in slightly racist, but it's against Canadians, so who cares? I wouldn't be surprised if they put in some kind of a rule that said they have to have X amount of Canadians players / French players. Because that absolutely is something Canada would do. Which would
No,
explain why Montembeault's in there.
that's not that wouldn't be that's not a thing.
I don't know about that.
No.
I don't know about that. Is it a conspiracy? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then they wouldn't have snubbed
But
people
like,
like Nick Suzuki. Or whichever one of the Canadians players is, because one of them, because there's
why
Cole
Montembeault?
Caulfield
That's
and
the
Nick
thing.
Suzuki. One of them's Canadian, one of them's American, and whichever is the Canadian one, they feel like got snubbed. So is it people who are French Canadian? Is it people who play for the Canadians? Is it?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
No, I don't. There's no. That's not a thing. There's literally zero reason for that.
Yeah, no. Well, there's zero reason for them to even exist, but here we are. Also, why do they only
I
have
thought there were.
Montembeault
I
on
don't
their
know.
roster? They don't have 2 goalies. What?
The Canadians?
Yeah, I'm looking at the NHL.com website right now. The only one listed is Montembeault. What the heck?
Jacob Dobes.
Doge.
Dobes.
There's a screenshot of what I see.
Because you're looking at a game roster, not the team roster. Or
Well,
wait, no, this isn't a game roster. What?
Yeah. Yeah, because I went into the game for today and scroll all the way down. But the Devils also have both of their goalies listed.
I don't know. That's really weird.
Yeah, because that was my first thought. Okay, if he's playing, then huh? It's an anti-conspiracy. NHL actually hates the Canadians and doesn't want to list their players.
That does happen. I don't know. Maybe there's deeper conspiracies at work here. But
Sure.
yeah.
True.
But yeah, I mean I think this back to the whole we were talking also about the goal differential and all this. Like
Yeah,
this is an interesting thing across all teams, and I was showing you something before. There's this cool stat that's kind of been talked about a bit more this year that I've heard on goal differential by period and how different teams will have different ones based on the period. And I mean, Washington's good in all of the periods we'll find, but some teams are very particularly good in certain periods. Now, this is as of 5 days ago, this graphic, but you know,
so it has changed a little bit, but this is pretty close.
not drastic. This will be as closely a good rough estimate as you can get. Like if we look, we look at some of these teams that are really good, like obviously Washington, but you got Columbus, Utah, Buffalo that are all super good in the first period. And you're like, what? That's weird. Like the Wild only +3, Colorado, Edmonton super bad. Like San Jose's going to be bad in pretty much every period.
Yeah.
But then if we go to second period, Edmonton, boom, +31 all of a sudden. Like -10 in the first, +31 in the second. Utah, +10 in the first, -15 in the second.
+12 in the first.
+12 in the first, -15 in the second. Buffalo was like second best. Yeah, +18.
+18, yeah.
And then -15. So they're essentially now nullified by their second period performances, right?
Yeah. So their games literally are just who plays better in the third.
Yeah, which is an interesting stat because you had the +18 or whatever, Washington +5 in the second, so kind of stabilizes there. But then in the third, they're back to +26. Vegas is +29. Colorado +18. Which, fun fact for everyone at home, Colorado has 18 empty net goals this season. This is exclusively that, but yeah, this is like Buffalo maintaining being down. So Buffalo's a first period team. Yep. Any lead they build in the first period is meaningless based off the next two periods.
Pretty much.
Utah kind of close to even, doing a little worse than they'd like, but injuries.
It's been interesting too, just watching them all season. Utah, this is. Watching Utah in every game, it's like, oh, well, it's the second period. We planned on sucking. Doesn't surprise me we just gave up 2 goals. It's the second period. If we can escape the second period giving them 1 or less goals, it's like, holy crap, that was the best second period ever. We've kind of known just watching these games. And then to see the numbers back that up, it makes me feel like I'm not totally crazy. Maybe a little bit, but not totally.
Not totally. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a smidgen.
Yeah. They've got to figure it out. I don't understand. The first period, okay, you're out to a slow start. The third period, okay, you gassed yourself. You got nothing left in the tank. Why the second? And why have we not been able to figure it out? To be fair, the last 3 games, we've done better in the second. And so we're definitely making a little bit of progress there, but I don't know what the problem is or why.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with some of these teams like Edmonton.
Yeah.
Like think about their mega comeback win against Colorado a week or so ago. They're down 3-0.
5 goals.
Well, they were down 3-0 at one point in the first. They scored right before the end of the first to make it 3-1. Ended up winning the game 4-3. So they turned things around, figured it out, but bad start. They had a string of games where they were down that much in the first, but then we'll score a lot in the second to bring it close and then finish it off in the third. Some games not. And I think that's what it is for a lot of these teams is the teams with better starts, who are good at making that opening of the game push, versus need that kind of wake up to get going. Some teams are just like that. Some teams they're cautious to start or slow or whatever it is about getting themselves into the game is different in the first period versus having a rhythm by the second. And it could just be that they're better at adapting to whoever they're playing. Like say some people, are very reactionary players, and what they do and the approach they take to the game is largely dependent on who they're up against. And so that can take a bit of time as you need to get your feet under you. You need to see, okay, what is my opponent doing? And then how do I want to counteract that? Whereas people who are more assertive in how they want to play, they're likely to have the better starts versus reactionaries. They're better to get better as the game progresses.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. I mean, I think back at when I played sport, like basketball especially. I was very much that kind of just wait and see kind of player. I had my game plan. I'd go out. I knew what I was doing from the start. But as the game progressed, okay, these guys are going to do this, and over on this side of the court, this is the way they're moving things, and so I kind of observe, and I will adjust my game by the end of the game to counter that more so than this is my game plan, and I'm going to do everything that I can to force it through. So I understand that approach completely, and I think it's very valid. It helps when you have a lead going into that part, but it's very valid.
Yeah. And, some teams, it's always better to play with a lead, but then again, at the same time, this lead has become such an odd one where a 3-goal lead isn't really all it's cracked up to be anymore. Like, if you have a 3-goal lead coming out of the first, the game is far from over. The only lead that starts to seem safe at any point is a 4-goal lead, which is wild to think. It's silly.
I'm still old enough to remember, a 2-goal lead. It's like, oh crap, we got a lot of work to do. Yeah, now doesn't matter. 2 goals in 20 seconds. I mean, how many times has that happened this year? So
a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely turning into more of an offensive league. That's for sure.
Mm. Well, and it's with all the help with the advanced analytics and helping players study where to be effective and how to do things, players are growing, players are coming out of it, and I think like the say Carolina, they're really becoming that kind of analytics team, and you can see how well they're doing really well this season, and they're kind of they're a cup contender. A lot of people see them as that cup contender, and
especially now,
yeah, they're
foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. We'll get to that in a second. There's some big blockbuster news, but there's a couple other team things I was
trying. What news? Some blipbuster? Big blipper news?
Yeah. Is this a reference?
Sorry. No, it just that was you about that was a reference to you about 5 seconds ago.
Did I
blipbuster?
I was trying to say blockbuster. I thought I said blockbuster.
I know what you were trying to say. That's why.
Did it not come out as that? That's funny. That's weird. Okay.
All right, your mic's off. Nobody heard it anyway.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's now coming. There's
you're double checking. I can see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm constantly now checking the audio mixer. Like, is the sound thing going up and down now? Because I wasn't. Yeah. When it's not moving when I'm talking, I'm like, oh wait, my mic's not been on. Dang it.
That sucks, but it's awesome at the same time.
But yeah, quickly, there was another thing. Columbus is the team. I was trying to come up with a way to segue, but then all the things that I was saying to segue didn't end up fitting to Columbus. So I'm like, but they're absolutely cooking. They're 7-2-1 in the last 10 games. They're in a playoff spot, and it's cool. It's cool what they're doing.
I think the lesson that can be taken from this is if you hear it here and we talk about anybody or any team, do the complete opposite when you're betting of what we say.
I don't know. We had pretty good record last time.
I mean, we were trashing Columbus. They sucked their bed. We were laughing at them being worse
They
than
have,
Buffalo.
but they have
Where
been.
did they come from? They're not only did they sneak into a playoff spot, but they're looking hot right now.
Well, it helps when they've got Kirill Marchenko and Zach Werenski absolutely popping off at the perfect time
Yeah, Zach.
for them.
Where did this kid come from?
I mean, he was trending apparently the last couple of years, but this year he's really just taken a huge step.
Yeah.
And really elevated his game, and I don't know. They just are finding ways to win. Adam Fantilli's starting to break out a bit too, which is nice. He just had his first career hat trick the other day.
I did see that. With mom in attendance.
With mom and family, yeah.
With mom in attendance.
And I had just picked him up in fantasy like a couple days before. It was a good day. I was like, oh, let's go.
What's it like having a good day in fantasy? I haven't had one of those in a while.
For a second, I was like, wait, I thought you were winning. No, you're up against a guy who's popping off this week, yeah.
He's got Werenski.
You have the exact same amount of points as me so far this week. That's really funny. 85.9. Nice.
Jeez.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know, but you look at their roster and there's not a lot of big names, but they're depth can work. You just roll your lines and big players do big things. I don't know.
All 4 lines.
Mm-hmm. The Predators, may they rest in peace this season, but they're on a 5-game winning streak, and they broke an insane losing streak. So, fun fact about the Predators: in games where they prior to a game this week, in games where they have trailed by 4 goals or more, they were 0 and 173. They had lost 173. They'd never come back from a 4-goal deficit to at least even lose in overtime.
Ever.
Yeah, in their history, they've been down by at least 4 goals, and 173 of them lost all of them in regulation.
Wow.
Until this week, where they came back and won.
Well, let's go Smashville.
Yeah.
Turn it around slightly.
Yeah. But it was funny because guess who it was against?
The Sharks.
The Sharks.
That was actually just a guess. I had no idea.
Yeah, they played them twice this week. And yeah, the Sharks, they scored.
Beat them both times.
Yeah, they did beat them both times. In
a
very
losing streak, and Nashville's on a winning streak.
Yeah. Yeah. Both very high-scoring games. So the first game, they won 7-5, but they started off by going down 3-0 in the first 12 minutes of the first. They scored 1 to make it 3-1, but then the Sharks scored 1 at the end of the period and 1 at the start of the second to put themselves up 5-1. They were winning 5-1. Jeez. Nashville then scores 6 unanswered goals.
They deserve the loss for even allowing 5 goals to San Jose.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Like, that's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
But they've moved themselves up to 29th in the league. They're not last place anymore. They are on a heater. Watch out.
They've moved up to 29th.
Watch out, playoffs.
2019, St. Louis, the year they won the cup, in the beginning of January or something, they were bottom of the league.
Yeah.
And somehow came back and not only made the playoffs but won the cup. So I mean, there's hope.
Yeah, I know.
No,
who they beat in the cup?
Yeah, well, I'd cry. I'd feel bad for you if you hadn't, in more recent times, also won a cup.
Yeah, but we've lost 2 since we've won the last one that we won.
Oh, I wonder what that feels like.
I don't.
I don't either. You've at least gotten to see your team win a cup in your lifetime.
True.
I've had to just watch mine lose in Game 7 heartbreakers.
Truth.
So, I feel your pain, but also, boo. Cry me a river.
But also shut up about it.
You
Sorry,
at least...
I think this will be the last year for the next couple that we make the playoffs. But
If you make it, this like
if
that, because I mean, come on, this playoff
yeah,
race in
yeah.
the East, like
The East is gonna getting insane.
like, come on, like Detroit, they've got 2 games in hand over Boston. Say they win them both, they're 1 point behind Boston. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
This
And
is
again, we were just talking about
point.
Columbus. They're right there. The
Yeah.
Rangers, who's they've been getting crapped on for how bad they are all year. They're right there.
Well, they've had a resurgence. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they've gotten a point in at least their last 10 games, if not maybe more. There's
Yeah.
like it's not. The Rangers are waking up. Whether or not just to increase their trade value, who knows? But the Rangers continue to be an unknown of what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, I mean they're like you said, they're on that 10-game point streak. Who knows? Tomorrow they might start a 12-game losing streak and then win every game for the rest of the year. Nobody knows with them. They're freaking weird.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But what I do know is that the Hurricanes are officially now a wagon. They are a wagon for the Cup. We are going to get our Carolina-Edmonton rematch in the finals, baby. Let's go. Almost 20 years later, 19 years later, it's going to be awesome. Because, ladies and gentlemen, blockbuster trade alert, Mikko Rantanen has been traded from the Colorado Avalanche to the Chicago Blackhawks, and then from the Chicago Blackhawks to the Carolina Hurricanes. So really, it's just to the Carolina Hurricanes. But there's a reason that Chicago was involved. But Jeff, when you first heard of this trade, what were your immediate thoughts?
Literally, holy crap! What is going on right now? This isn't a McDavid being traded. This is like you have the top 2 or 3 players, and then you go down like half a tier, and you've got a handful of players there. And Rantanen is in that second.
Well,
tier.
he was the Draisaitl of Colorado.
Yes.
He's a top 5 scorer
Easy.
in the league.
Easy.
Points wise, like he's
Yep.
when Edmonton and Colorado play, you've got 4 of the best 5 or 6 players in the league.
Yep.
Rantanen's unreal. He was just overshadowed by McKinnon and Makar. You got 5. When they all play, you got McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, McDavid, Draisaitl all in one game. Wow.
Exactly.
This is chills.
Yeah, this is gigantic. This is a big deal. It's one of those things that Colorado just doesn't have the space to re-sign him. He's asking for $14 million. That's going to be more than anybody else on that team is making. They don't have the room to sign him, so it makes sense. Get rid of him now, while you can still get value instead of letting him walk at the end of the year. However, Colorado is still a deep team, but they have not been playing up to the potential that they have with as deep of a team as they are this year.
Well,
so to me, I think this absolutely makes them a weaker team. I'm not saying that they're baseball colors now. I think it does make them a weaker team.
I have to disagree.
With that being said,
I have to disagree.
This is not nothing to get back.
I have
You can't tell me a team gets better by getting rid of Rantanen.
Well, so here's the thing. So one of the things that has been a bit of a criticism this year for Colorado has been their depth. Like compared to when they won the Cup versus now, their depth hasn't been as good. They haven't had as many things. Plus, the amount of injuries that they've had.
Yes.
Like
I would clarify that their depth is just as good, if not better, than anybody else in the league. It's just none of them have been healthy.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far to say as good as anyone in the league, per se, but that like they've had good depth. You know, they've got Nichushkin's come back. They have Lehkonen. They have Middlestat.
Casey Middlestat,
Colton Ross is back. Yeah, Logan O'Connor. Like they've got some guys that are decent, and if Landeskog can come back, then this is crazy. But yes, the big problem here, everyone, was Mikko Rantanen wanted Leon Draisaitl money. He wanted $14 million a year. That was the reports. Colorado.
Not unrealistic for him to ask.
No, he definitely is that. He's like, if we want to pull up, I don't know here. Let me pull up Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah.
Let me pull up his stats here. So if we pull up his stats, like the man has been the previous 2 seasons 100-point player, 92 points the previous season in only 75 games. So if he played a full season, he would have gotten to 100. 66 games and 52 games the prior year. 41. Like he's had one season apart from his first couple rookie seasons where he wasn't a point per game player, but he really was. But then he's been absolutely taking off the last 3 years.
The last 2 years. What more do you want?
Yeah, like he's been only a one-time 50-goal scorer, which you could say Leon Draisaitl's going to be 4-time 50-goal scorer.
Yeah.
Is he? Is he worth $14 million? One could argue maybe yes, maybe no, but he's also his playoff performance. If we look at his playoff performance, he has been one of the best playoff performers of his generation. Like the man is so clutch, so huge. Aside from his first playoff year, over point per game in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I'm just looking here, even the last couple of years, 14 points in 11 games, 10 points in 7 games, 25 and 20.
That was the year they won the cup.
Yeah. I mean, dude just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And even looking like this year, his goals, he's only getting 0.75 goals a game. But he's just under 2 points per game at 192. Last year, 237 per 60. The year before that, 234. He hasn't dipped. You have to go all the way back to his rookie season to get under 2 points a game from this guy. That's disgusting.
Wait, what do you mean 2 points per game? Where are you looking?
I mean, you take a game, which is 60 minutes long.
Yeah.
And he's scoring 2 points in that 60-minute period.
But where are you seeing that stat? I'm not seeing that stat.
Media.
Oh, in his points per 60.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. So the advanced analytics.
Yep. Yeah, I know you were on NHL. I was looking a little bit deeper, but it's a gigantic trade.
Yeah.
Gigantic.
Oh yeah. No, it's absolutely blockbuster. And the thing is, Carolina can now afford it. So if we look at their cap situation, you're like, oh, they only have $1 million in cap space. They're like, what is this? They're even going to be over at some point. But that's irrelevant because if we look at next year, because Rantanen, he's only making $4.6 million. So in the trade, there was a 3-way trade that brought Taylor Hall over to Carolina as well. Chicago received a draft pick, their own draft pick that they traded away. Fun fact, to Carolina. So they received back their draft pick and are retaining half of Rantanen's contract this year. But if we look at next year, who's expiring? The Taylor Hall contract won't be there. So that's $6 million. So that gets you up to 10.6. You've got Dmitry Orlov, $7.75 million will be over next year.
You don't think they're going to retain him?
Well, I think they might re-sign him, but he won't be worth $7.75 million. He's 33 years old. Like a 34-year-old defenseman's not going to be worth that. They've got Brett Burns, who's 39 at $5.2 million.
I don't know how he still plays.
Well, he's still really good. So if he still keeps playing, he won't be worth $5 million. So you take $2 million. Say you even only take $2 million off Dmitry Orlov. You take $2 million off of Brett Burns, plus the $6 million that will be gone from Taylor Hall's contract. That's $10 million. keep paying that 4.6 million, add on that 10 million you just found out, and the cap's going to be going up likely 9 million.
Yep.
You keep Brett Burns, Dmitry Orlov, you lose Taylor Hall, but heck, you could probably even find a way to sign Taylor Hall if you really wanted to.
Taylor Hall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him a pay raise. You know, I mean, as long as he's not asking for an additional 50%, you're fine.
Yeah. So they can afford him, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I have gotten a lot of pushback over the last couple of years saying watch out for Carolina because they're coming. They're good now, but they're coming. Obviously, I never saw this coming, but I don't think you can really argue against Carolina anymore.
No. And what they gave up hurt, but not terribly for them. They gave up 2 picks. Martin Necas, who has been having a bit of a career year. So one could argue that because at one point he was leading the league in points.
And it wasn't close for the first month and a half of the season.
So he's having a career year, which maybe could be an inflated, makes his value inflated. Maybe not. You never know. But now he's going to be playing on Colorado. They got Jack Drury, a nice depth center there. Young guy, to only 24. So that's going to add that depth that they need at center. So yeah, they just improved their centers where they've got McKinnon. Their centers now are McKinnon, Necas, Drury, Ross, and Middlestead. Those are that's a great set of options for center. You can never have too many centers.
Yeah.
So this is good. And yeah, they lost Rantanen, but they got those picks. They got Necas, and they're likely not going to be done. They're likely going to be looking for other players and are now just finding ways to diversify.
Don't say it.
I mean, we don't know how genuine or possible it is. You know, some people out there wanting to say the rumor that, now Crosby's going to be coming to Colorado now. Now it's possible for Crosby to come to Colorado. You're like, that would be really insane. That would be crazy. I don't know. That would be really fun. But
he has a full no trade, right?
I would imagine so. But they can always ask him to lift it for the right deal.
Could, but what is this? 2.5 hours ago, TSN put an article out with a quote from him. Unless something changes, and at this point I have absolutely zero reason to believe it will, Sidney Crosby is not being traded out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But there have been reports of there's been bigger names. There's been a bigger trade tabled than the Rantanen one that could happen within the next 48 hours of the Rantanen trade.
Yeah, I'm looking at Frank Saravalli's tweet right now, and not sure how to process yet, but impeccable source said that this Rantanen deal was not the biggest thing on the table in the last 48 hours.
Which makes me think that and people are like, oh, it's Crosby. No, it's likely because we know that New York was really close to acquiring JT Miller. There's been confirmed sources that say there was almost a trade that went through for JT Miller to go to New York. It likely, if I had to guess, a bigger blockbuster would have to be something out of Vancouver or New York.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was those two teams. If they're hyping this up, I would think, because there have been rumors for both JT Miller and Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
And if they're hyping this trade up to be that big of a deal, would not surprise me that both those two are sticking together and going somewhere. New York, obviously, they've been on a fire sale. Rumor has it that both Panarin and Zibanejad are basically already gone. They just need to find somebody that wants them, but those two are not sticking around. Wouldn't surprise me if those four are kind of at the center of it.
I've also heard rumblings. This wouldn't be bigger than Rantanen, but Seth Jones out of Chicago could be getting moved. You know, what if it's Malkin? It could maybe because it still could be Pittsburgh because we know that Dubas, the genius that he is willing to trade essentially anyone. So what if it's Malkin?
Yeah.
What if it's Letang? But I think it would have to be. I saw this one post. I don't think it's real, but like Igor Shesterkin has asked for a trade. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But maybe
I saw one
what if
post about that?
Igor goes to Carolina? I don't know if that could you. They couldn't afford that. They couldn't afford that. No way.
It's over. I'm seeing Brock Besser. A couple articles here. Brock Besser's coming up in that.
Besser wouldn't be bigger than Rantanen though.
No, but again, throw him in. If it was a Miller, Pedersen, and Besser.
Well, they wouldn't go together. Miller and Pedersen wouldn't go to the same team. They don't like each other. Like that wouldn't happen.
No, probably not. But how funny would it be? You guys are sitting here whining and complaining and causing all this drama because you don't like playing together and you want to get out of the locker room. Why don't we just get rid of you both and send you to the same place?
Yeah.
Go be a
Send them to New York. That would solve all the problems going on there. Holy cow. Yeah.
Taylor Hall was kind of the biggest surprise for me out of this whole trade.
Really?
Purely because there have been strong rumors I've been seeing for about 2 weeks now that he was on the block and Boston was actively looking to get him back. Which I'm just sitting there like, yeah, and I told you should have re-signed him at the time anyway. Why'd you let him go to begin with? But Bill Armstrong had also, it confirmed he had already reached out and started kicking the tires, and they were starting to talk about the Taylor Hall trade with Chicago to send him to Utah because we are looking for another big forward piece.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill Armstrong.
I don't think Taylor Hall's what Utah needs. I don't think he's the type of player that would help you.
I think those are two separate things. I think it would be a help. I also don't think he is the one that we need. But I don't think we're getting worse by getting Taylor Hall.
No.
But what I've noticed with the rumors from Bill Armstrong, by the time we hear about them, they're usually pretty far along, and he is not one who's going to be beat. So once I saw that rumor, I kind of had already started accepting, okay, Taylor Hall's coming to Utah. That's where it kind of took me off guard. I was like, okay, I'm not heartbroken over it, but okay, that's a thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know who's out there for y'all, but you'll be getting somebody.
We got to be getting somebody.
It's just gonna take a little bit of time. I think we got to get a couple of these big blockbusters out of the way, because then people will be starting to be more open to talking about anything and everyone. But right now, people are just trying to get in on the big things to try and figure out what the value is, and that's gonna be the main focus till. How far away are we from the trade? Because actually, I don't think, aside from these big blockbuster deals that are more easy to determine, I don't think any other kind of major moves will be happening before the Four Nations. During the Four Nations, that's when a lot of scouting, a lot of talking is going to be happening, because you're not going to be having actual NHL games, and that'll be just the time for GMs and their teams to really do their hypothetical exploring analysis, come out of it with their different possible outcomes, and then they'll go and start making calls.
Yeah. I'm wondering here, can I get details? I know JT Miller had already rejected the trade to New York. I never saw details on it.
I didn't see details either.
Yeah, the only thing I can find here is New York is still in play, and they're still aggressively pursuing. When it comes to New York's players, many of them are still believed to be available. That group includes veteran forwards Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, who were respectively offered to the Canucks and scratched out of the lineup earlier in the season, as well as defenseman Ryan Lindgren. So all three of them could be going at some point.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll find out.
Oh, here we go. JT Miller for Philip Chaitil, a first-round pick and a prospect.
There you go.
Philip.
Yeah, I don't.
Never heard of this kid. 25 years old, 22 goal, 45 points in his last healthy season.
Yeah. Now this is kind of where one of the interesting things are is it's so hard to know the actual details of the inner workings and the goings on and what's actually being said or happening around these players. Because one, we respect their privacy and they should. Like it's none of our business on some of these things. Plus it's fun to then let us speculate, but then at the same time it's like what you wouldn't give to be a fly on the wall, hearing the conversations that go on in the players and the management and know what actually leads to these decisions being made. Because at what point, say with the Ranton thing, at what point did Colorado in their talks with him be like, okay, like, dude, we can't pay it, we're not gonna pay it, or whatever it was. And Ranton's like, then trade me, or like we're gonna trade you, and he's like, okay, because you sometimes you're like, oh, so and so was blindsided, or Devin Taves I think replied to the post by the NHL about the Mikko Rantanen trade. And he's like, what the hell? Like,
yeah,
it's like what?
Well,
what?
According to Pierre LeBrun here, Rantanen was still willing to negotiate throughout the rest of the season and kind of let it go. It says, in fact, both sides had more contract talks just this past week. They just couldn't find enough common ground. In the end, the Avs made the calculation they were never going to get there on price. So as recently as this week, they were still talking about it. Rantanen had, according to LeBrun here, Rantanen was still willing to negotiate throughout the rest of the year. But
sure.
Yeah, like you said, Colorado at some point eventually said, look, this isn't going anywhere. We got to get rid of him.
Well, because if they don't sign him, the more they're worried about signing, they like the closer you get to the trade deadline or even the end of the season, the harder it would be to get any value for Rantanen, because at some point teams are like, we can just wait till free agency. Like why would we trade that much for the rights to him?
Yeah. You're not wrong at all. You're not wrong at all.
Yeah, but it's, this is a business, and so they found a way to make things work. Because another thing is, Colorado, with the way the beginning of the season went, they don't have time to waste in terms of their season success. That's why they went and got both Wedgwood and Blackwood when they did, and signed Blackwood when they did, right? Because Mackenzie Blackwood, very good goalie. They with it after 5 games with them, sign him to a $5.5 million contract. Moving forward.
Didn't take long for them to give him that bonus there.
No, and I mean I don't know if I've heard some skepticism on. Is this a good idea? Like, has he been proven? Because goalies are so hard, are such a hard science, and if you spend too much, and you end up in like a Jack Campbell situation, well then you're like, because people complain about goaltending. If you can't get one of the top 5 guys in the league, there's a big argument to be made that you can only go for the value, and so because then if you spend too much on goaltending, you can't put this much money into players. And it could be that, say, this Blackwood thing is the reason why now Rantanen couldn't be signed.
Could be. Which, that's a double-edged sword. On one hand, again, by no means do I think any team could get better by getting rid of Mikko Rantanen. But on the other hand, if Blackwood can give them what they're looking for and can at least be relatively consistent to what we've seen out of him so far since he moved over to Colorado. In my eyes, I think they needed a huge upgrade in goaltending more than they needed to keep Rantanen. I think their goaltending went up enough that they could kind of absorb that blow from losing Rantanen, especially getting Natchez back. He's not a replacement for Rantanen, but he's going to absorb a lot of that missing production and help kind of shoulder that a little bit.
Mm.
So yeah, if Blackwood can be the guy that they signed, they'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's no question. But yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't have any other thoughts on that unless you do.
I mean, the only other thought is, what the heck is Chicago doing?
Well, that there is that thought because they're like, what did they lost Hall? They get their own third-round pick back, and they're paying half of Rantanen's salary.
Yeah.
Huh?
They're paying half of his salary and getting rid of Taylor Hall just to get not even a first round, a third-round draft pick. That's what I'm not sure about.
So there's a couple of things.
Something to be said for Chicago's bad, so they want a salary dump. There's something to be said for that. But if I'm in a salary dump, I at least want to get something back, and all I get was a third-round pick. And if I'm going to salary dump Taylor Hall and then still pay half of Rantanen's salary, did you really come out that far ahead?
So I've thought about this. So there's a couple theories I have. One, there must be some favor that Chicago owed either Colorado or Carolina. Because sometimes, say sometimes a trade will happen and one team will only give future considerations, right? And so that means that, someone's doing someone a favor at some point. Either immediately in that trade, like being willing to buy out a player, so you get, there'll be two players in the deal, one player the other team wanted, and one player that they're just going to use their cap space to buy out, and the other, the team given the players will get future considerations. That's there. But then other times it could be, hey, at some point I'm going to need a favor, just not right now. Something's in the works, but I'll need you to be involved here to help out with that.
That's fair.
Another thing it could be is, Chicago, since they're so bad, that third round pick is really more like a second round pick, just like a later second round pick. So you could view it like that. And since it's Chicago's own pick, they can then potentially use that to offer sheet another player. So it could be that Chicago's like, we've got our eyes on this player that on this other team we want to offer sheet. So please include us in this deal so that we can get our draft pick. But we know you guys wanted that draft pick, but we want it back so we can offer sheet this other player.
Okay.
It could be like, hey, later when we go to do this, don't jump in on, like, it could be like you could be getting in on this player too, but instead you just give us back our draft pick and then you stay out of it. And that way, by extension, Chicago gets something else out of this deal. We just don't see what it is yet.
It's certainly possible.
Like that, I think there's something like that going on here.
There has to be. Because, and this is one that I'm going to be interested in keeping my eye on. Because, this makes zero sense for Chicago to even be involved in this as of right now.
Well, this is the role they play in these kinds of moves. When they're an organization like they are right now, this is how they get. This is where teams will come to be like, hey, we don't have the cap space, but you do. Can you help us out, pretty please?
Exactly.
Heck, we'll buy you dinner.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on that because you get rid of Taylor Hall, you get rid of this Nils Juntorp prospect, you take half of that salary, and all you get is a third-round pick. There's got to be more to this story. So this will be a fun couple of weeks. I want to keep my eye on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, something else to keep our eye on is the future of how people respond to reffing. Jeff, our big ticket money conversation today is the Connor McDavid suspension, which enough people haven't beaten to death yet, but we want to give our own little fun twist to it. So
I just want to put out there too, hopefully I feel like the what we talk about with this, I mean overall, but with this specifically, I hope we're giving you guys a little bit more insight rather than just, oh, Connor McDavid shouldn't have got suspended. That's stupid. Or he definitely should. He's a goon. He sucks. Hopefully, we're giving you a little bit more value and a little bit more good in-depth thought than that. So yes, you've heard it 1,000 times. Stick with us for one more.
Yeah. So, for those who may not know, Connor McDavid cross-checked Connor Garland in the head, side of the head. It's important to note. There is a difference between the face and the head, like the side of the head where the helmet is versus the face.
Whoa.
I know. Connor McDavid got suspended for 3 games, which means he also loses almost $200K of his salary because players get paid by the game. And so when you're suspended without pay, it turns out. So he loses that. Tyler Myers also got suspended for 3 games for cross-checking Evan Bouchard in the face. Now you're like, wow, okay, cross-checks to the head area, 3 games. Like just from that sounds fair, seems equal. Cool, right? Like if that was all I knew, I'd be like, okay, sounds good, fine. Equal punishment, consistent, all kinds of good, similar infractions. I've got no problem with that. That is not the reality of the situation. The context and the location and the situations that led up to each infraction and the consistency of such punishments across other similar scenarios in the league are not consistent, Jeff. So I've got a lot of issues here. So I showed you the lead up to the McDavid cross-check on Garland. What do you remember from it? What do you remember seeing?
Well, I mean, I've seen it about a billion times since then as well. This was, I know, I've mentioned it on the podcast a couple times. You and I feel like we've been having a on-again, off-again conversation for a month now.
Yeah.
About how bad officiating is.
Which I simultaneously agree and disagree with.
But McDavid and Garland, they get tangled up. Unfortunate, sucks, whatever. I think the initial tangle up, it happens. They both hit the floor. Connor Garland then sticks his feet up and wraps them around McDavid to keep him held down, which is a penalty. Then as McDavid's finally able to start getting up, he turns, grabs him, and pulls him back down to hold him down, which is another penalty. This whole thing was about 15 seconds of Garland holding McDavid on the ground.
Yeah.
None of which got called.
No.
Finally able to stand back up, and that's when McDavid cross-checks him to the face.
In the head, side of the head.
To me,
I think that's the difference.
It is, but here's where my disagreement is. If I'm aiming for your head, whether or not you sit there and take it or turn your head, my actions haven't changed. My actions are the same.
Sure. Oh, no, I agree.
In my mind, it's the same thing. I've only seen it once or twice, but I have seen some people saying, well, because he got him in the side of the head, it shouldn't be as much of a penalty as the one against Bouchard because I got him in the mouth. Think before you type on Facebook comments, people. Just stop. Think for a second.
That's a lot to ask.
I hit you in the head area with my stick. My actions didn't change whether you turned your head to the side or not. That should not make a difference. I still did X thing that was wrong. But I don't want to get too deep into my thoughts yet, but there's the summary.
Yeah, so there's the summary. So that's the McDavid thing, okay? So then Bouchard, after, there's a scruffle, there's a kerfuffle going on, but, Bouchard, the softy that he is, who's never hurt a fly, for better or for worse, you'd like one of your best defensemen to be a little more physical, I think, but, everyone's got their own style. So he's talking to Tyler Myers. They're chirping each other, as one does. As the boys do. You chirp each other. You hate each other. Vancouver, Edmonton, they hate each other, right? Like, you're chirping. And so, Bouchard's, moving a bit closer to him, and, they're yelling, they're angering, they're having their gentlemanly discussion. When all of a sudden, Myers just, bam, lifts his stick
Yep.
and just, Bouchard's arms are by his side. There's no aggressive stance, no physical altercation threatening, and just boom, decks him right in the face with his stick.
Yep.
With, like, what provokes you to do that from nothing? Like, at least McDavid had been held for 15 seconds at the end of the game, but yet they both get 3-game suspensions for it. When historically, of past Matthews, for example, recently, just he cross-checked a dude in the face after they were getting all tangled up with each other, and Matthews is being interfered with. He decks the guy in the face with his stick. He only gets 2 games, and 2 games would have made sense in this situation because that would have prevented both Myers and McDavid from playing in the Edmonton-Vancouver rematch that happened this Thursday. But for some reason, they both get 3. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And the player safety department, whatever they are, their explanations are garbage most of the time. They need a whole revamping. The refs, Wes McCauley, as much as everyone loves him, had a terrible game. The whole game was reffed so poorly. Both coaches were pissed at the refs before any of the altercations at the end of the game happened. Like, yeah, everyone loves Wes McCauley because he's all entertaining, but he had a bad game, which happens, but look
what it did.
Look what it did.
Yeah.
Myers lost about $100K in salaries from that as well, by the way.
Yeah. I will push back on the argument that I'm seeing every time anything happens. You have half the people saying 3 games wasn't enough, should have been 5. You have the other half of the people saying 3 games was too much, should have been 1. We need to quit being arbitrary. If you think 3 games is too severe, why'd you pick 1? How did you come up with that number? If 3 games was too lenient, how'd you come up with 5? In your example, why did Matthews get 2 for doing the exact same thing that what's-his-face did to Bouchard? Why is there a difference? Every other sport that I know of, the rules are very clearly defined as part of the CBA. You commit X thing that is
really
suspension for X number of games.
Really?
Yes. For this reason. If you are
I'm a fan of that.
If McDavid was like a 4th-time offender and got more games, and in Matthews this was the first time, that's usually something that's written in the CBA. I'm perfectly okay. If you've shown a track record that you can't be trusted and you keep cross-checking people in the mouth, yeah, you deserve to get a higher punishment for that. But there's a very, very simple solution, very easy way to eliminate that kind of inconsistency problem.
Is have an established, yeah.
Yes.
Which the NHL does not have. No.
I know. As far as the difference between the Bouchard and the McDavid ones, there's a 2-parter. So when I say part 1, don't get upset because I know you're going to disagree. But let me get through both parts, and I think you'll be on board.
I will let you get through both parts.
Both players, it was a cross-check to the head. They should be the exact same suspension. Because, again, we're going to go for consistency. We're going to write it out. 1 game, 5 games, 8 games, 3 games, whatever it is.
Sure.
But, and this is probably the only time you'll ever hear me giving credit to the NBA. The NBA has, yeah, I know. They have what's called a flagrant foul. Yes, it's subjective, which I don't love. But the idea being, if you commit a foul, you take your penalty shots, you move on. But if it's determined that it was something that was very avoidable and it was blatantly on purpose that you tried to injure somebody, they will tack on additional punishments. I would be in favor of writing that into the CBA. So in this case, both players get their 3 games suspension, and then we can go back and say, they would have to determine the McDavid situation. Maybe we don't give him the flagrant. Maybe we don't give him that bonus charge because of the circumstances around it. But the one against Bouchard in the face, like you said, 100%, they were chirping each other. If you really want to fight, drop your gloves and fight.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's what that is in the game for.
Or punch him in the face with your glove, not your stick. You know, if
Exactly. I don't care what he said to you. You cross-checked him in the face unprovoked. This wasn't the heat of the moment because the play had already been dead for quite a while at this point. There is no excuse. Give him the extra game. Give him the extra 2 games. You know, whatever they've determined that flagrant suspension is. I'm fine with that. I think that would be a good way to differentiate those two exact same penalties that happened just a few seconds apart.
Mhm.
Because it is important in my mind to look at,
context.
again, I don't want to just, yeah, the context of it. I mean, they were the exact same thing, but there were different scenarios. And so I do think that needs to be taken into consideration. But I think the proper way is to extend and not reduce. So we extend the one that was more flagrant on purpose, not reduce Connor McDavid's and saying, oh, well, he should be able to do it because of this. No, he was wrong. Give him his punishment. But the other guy was more wrong, and so he gets the additional. I think in my mind that's, yes, it's semantics, but I think we extra
No.
punish bad behavior rather than under punishing slightly less bad behavior.
No, I can fully agree with that. I really like that approach where if you can have the consistency, because you know I don't like the 3 games because I felt like the argument, I haven't heard enough good arguments that there was a precedent for it to be 3 games, right? But that's the problem, is there is no precedent. You're like, well, these last 2 infractions of this exact type in the league only got 2 games, so why is this now 3? And you know, what is this and that? And there's never a good explanation because there's so much politics around it that we both do and don't know, that all we can do is speculate. But when you, like you said, have it written down and have set boundaries for these things, all of a sudden our arguments are, oh, that was too much or that wasn't enough, all of a sudden go away. And then you can have the extra thing like the flagrant foul or, you know, whatever, the subjective addition to increase it. Sure. I could maybe see you having, like, for argument's sake, I could see there being something on reducing things based off of context, like having the reverse of a flagrant foul would be. I could see it, but I don't have an example to give. So sure. I'm like, if it didn't exist, fine, cool. I'm not worried. It'd be a fun exploration to see, is there certain times where makes sense to not have it.
And real quick, the problem that I have with that is if we're going to have all these things written in the rules, clearly defined, and we start adding too many addendums to it,
yeah, and
what's the point of having it clearly defined?
And that's why I said I'd have to look and see, is there a case for it? Because yeah. I can't think of one off the top of my head. So I'm like 95% certain. Yeah, no, you wouldn't. But
for sure.
Now, the next kind of question is: do you like, if we ignore the illegality of it, do you like what McDavid did in standing up in what has been termed as him standing up for himself? Yeah, like if we ignore how he did it,
that's the key.
Yeah.
I never once have I, never will I justify cross-checking someone in the face. That's dangerous. And again, you and I have been having the on-again conversation about a couple things, and one of them is, I think it's just me getting old, but I'm starting to view things differently. And
I've told you you're not old, because if you were old, you'd say that they're not doing enough of this.
Yeah.
Specific type of illegal things.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I would have been like, ooh, that's not cool. Moving on. But now I'm thinking of it more, that cross-check to the face, that could have given that guy a concussion. That could have poked an eye out. That could have broken a jaw, lost a bunch of teeth. He could have fallen awkwardly to the ice and had a severe head trauma that killed him. You know, I'm thinking beyond just 60 minutes of this game. This could have ruined the guy's career. This could have ruined the guy's relationship with his family and children. This could have killed him. It ruined his entire life.
Sure.
So I'm not okay with players taking the law into their own hands to that degree and doing things like that. But to your point, from in a vacuum, am I okay with Connor McDavid standing up for himself? Yes. And I think he hasn't been doing enough of it. And I think that's where a lot of this kind of crap goes on. He and you know, the Rantanens, the McKinnons, They're very skilled players. I do have, and I specifically remember 2015, 2016. You and I were having a conversation that I was very impressed with the way that McDavid handled himself. Because a lot of other players, you breathe the air around them wrong, they get upset, they throw punches. McDavid, you could slew foot him, he would just stand up and keep playing. And to a point, I still am very impressed with that.
Well, he still does. Like, that's
exactly. And I was raised that way. My dad always told me, don't talk to people on the court, let your game talk for you. And so people do things to me, let it go, and just beat them, and show them why it doesn't matter that they cheated, they still suck. And I really appreciate that about him. But with that being said, there comes a point where you've now gone too far being passive. And I'm not saying he needs to go out there and start fighting everybody. But I do want to see him start pushing back more. I do want to start seeing a couple more hits here and there. I do want to see him start talking to people. They're pushing him around too much. He's let it happen for 10 years now. It's known around the league. You can do whatever you want to Connor McDavid because nobody's going to stand up for him. The team ain't going to fight. They don't have a big fighter. They don't have an enforcer. And they're just going to watch it happen. They're going to let it happen, and he's going to let it happen. So go ahead. And this is what it leads to.
I mean, there's so few enforcers in the game now, and I don't think there's space. But they're like the thing is, that was Kane's role back when he was healthy, right? Like he would come in and he would hit. Darnell Nurse does some of that. Ekholm can do some of that. Perry can do some of that. It's just, it's about teams doing things, but also players standing up for themselves. And the thing is, in the playoffs, you see a lot more of it from McDavid. Will hit a lot in the playoffs, but he doesn't do it as much in the regular season. But he's also, this year has been different. And there was a very interesting article written by the guy who's normally a clown, aka Mark Spector, but this was actually mostly very good. And he brought up some very interesting things. So when you have the best offensive players in the league, they often have the puck a lot on their stick in the O-zone, and other teams are having to take penalties against them a lot of times to stop it. Yeah. So if we look at McDavid historically, this first table is of McDavid's specifically O-zone, so in the attacking zone, possession time per game. And since 2020, he has been first place in O-zone time. And he's never been worse than fourth in his career. Yep. For some reason, 2015 season isn't included in this. But since 2016, worst he's been is fourth. The second table is of where he ranks in total penalties drawn amongst other players in the league. 2019, 2020, that was one of his lowest years in the offense for O-zone time possession. But, he was 20th. But, that was only half the season played or something or other. But then, since then, second, first, fifth last year, but he's been first before. Yep. This year, he's tied for 47th, and he's set a new record for amount of O-zone time he has of any other season.
Yeah.
What the actual bleep is going on?
No, I want to make a clarification point as well, because for those of you who don't know, we do have, we have our notes we're referring to throughout the show. He had put this in there. I read through and I kind of typed out some of my thoughts. And he disagreed with one of my thoughts. I don't think you'll disagree if I can find a way to articulate it.
Sure.
I have seen a lot of people throwing this stat around since this incident. A lot of people are really pissed off about it. That he's got more O-zone time than everybody else. He's 47th, therefore foul. Something's wrong. We need to be very careful about that, because is there the possibility? And I'm not saying in this case. I'm just saying, is there the possibility you could have the number one offensive zone time in the league, and nobody ever committed a foul against you? Yes.
Sure. Oh, yeah, sure.
Odds are infinitesimally small. It's never going to be the case. Could it be the case? Yes, it absolutely could. And so I think a lot of people are people are unwilling or unable, and I haven't figured out which, probably some of both. They're unwilling and or unable to look at statistics or look at data and actually use it in a way that makes sense and think beyond what the number says. They're just looking, first ozone time, 47th penalties, discrepancy, there's a problem, the league hates McDavid. We have to look at that and say, that's a big discrepancy. That's a red flag. Let's investigate further. Let's look into this to see what it means instead of jumping to the conclusion that there's a problem.
Sure. Oh,
now, with that clarification being said, number one, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a row. First in the league, ozone time. In those last 5 years, second, first, fifth in taking penalties. Why is it that we have had such a small change in the offensive zone time, yet such a drastic change in the amount of penalties taken? That smells fishy to me. And then we start doing the eye test where we look at some of these examples and we start watching the games and we start seeing all these things like Connor Garland pinning him to the ice for 15 seconds. We can't.
Draisaitl getting slew-footed 2 games in a row with no calls. You know, it's
exactly my point. We can't just look at that number and say first versus 47 numbers are, big difference number, therefore bad. Quick maths. You cannot do that. But that should start the investigation. That should start to get you to think. I see these numbers. I see what it is. Now, what do those numbers mean? And in my opinion, there is a preponderance of evidence, and there is enough other things going on in this case that there is an issue.
Well, yeah. Heck, look at this. Nathan McKinnon this year so far. He's in 45th. He's only drawn 15.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Marchand somehow gotten the most, tied for the most with Brady Tkachuk. That's really funny, actually.
Neither of those two are surprising to me. What are their jobs? They're going to go out on the ice, and they're going to get under your skin, and they're going to piss you off and bait you into a penalty. Doesn't surprise me they've drawn the most.
Yeah, so last year, McKinnon was 15th. 32. He had 32. McDavid so actually, he's on pace to do a similar amount. Just for some reason, that ends up because that's 16 after the first half of the season. So we're halfway through the season. Maybe a couple less, but McDavid at 41 last year.
Yep.
But yeah, Tkachuk, Marchand, Tkachuk all at the top last year. Yeah, they rile people up. So you've got people that are skilled and will run you have to hack them to stop them essentially. But yeah, and you're absolutely right where you're like, okay, yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean there is something wrong, but when you see a trend like this, you then have to ask, well, what are people seeing? And a scout said, I can't believe McDavid doesn't draw 3 or 4 penalties a game. You could call something almost every time he has the puck. We're all over him.
Fine. So be it.
But
everybody, the game's not fun that way. Well, then maybe they should stop committing penalties.
Well,
why is it that we're just arbitrarily defending bad behavior? Because it's not fun to watch. If it's not fun, then that team sucks, and they should stop making penalties every time that McDavid has the puck. Maybe learn to actually play the game.
Well, it's even less about that. It's less about that and more about how reffing has, over the last however many years, has become not about calling the game, but about managing the game.
Yes.
And, you've got teams like Edmonton, but the teams with the best power plays, like I'm sure McKinnon could probably also have a ton more penalties called against him. But these power plays with these guys are so dangerous that refs are worried about just giving them countless power plays, which
Stop.
And it should be. Like, we have to stop managing the game. You have to start calling the game. Obviously, yes. If it's a 6-0 game and you're in the final 5 minutes, you're not going to call as many ticky-tack, little flick onto the hands. No, you're not going to call the slashing on that. Someone holds a little too long. Okay, maybe you don't call the holding, but you don't like. Why are we reffing games in the regular season like we do in the playoffs? I get why there's less calls in the playoffs. I get it. I don't have to like it to get it. But in the regular season, at least, like, come on. Why are we managing games? That's not the ref's job to manage the games. And then if you do that, you're then forcing players to have to police themselves. But we don't live in a league where that's as much of a thing anymore. We're not here to police ourselves. We're not we don't need to have goons anymore. They're too one-dimensional, and we've gotten to a point where we don't need them. But if this continues, like, you almost do. And that sucks because that hurts the game, I feel.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I remember having a conversation. There was back when I was living in South Salt Lake, there was a buddy of mine that he and I were big hockey fans. And, whenever we'd be with other people or we'd go to a Grizzlies game or whatever, people are talking about, so tell me about the fighting. Why is fighting? And the way we would explain it, we would always say it's a natural pressure release valve. Where once that pressure starts building and building and building and building, and everybody's at high tension, let two guys fight each other. They'll punch each other a couple times, all that tension and all that pressure instantly gone, and everybody's fine again. And it's a natural part of the game. Yes, people can get injured fighting. Yes, it's not a fun thing to do. But it's far less dangerous than letting that pressure build and build and build and build and build, and now all of a sudden there's an explosion, and everybody's hurt. So you're picking the lesser of two evils. Well, what have we seen in the last number of years? Especially this year. And I've said it before, I'm willing to admit that this might be my own personal short-sightedness because I'm seeing it more and I'm paying attention more this season than I have previously to a lot of different things. So maybe this season isn't worse than it has been, and I'm just noticing it more. But the amount of these things that are just, again, in real time, you're going to miss some slashing calls. You're going to miss some close offsides calls.
Refs probably have the worst view of anyone, to give them credit.
Yeah. You're going to miss a lot of real close calls in real time. It's a fast-moving game. I don't begrudge them at all. And I think everybody needs to lay off the refs in those cases. However, my problem is when you miss the call in real time. We see 5 replays it's pretty clear. The play gets challenged. You see the replay. Toronto sees the replay. Yet you're too proud to admit that you were wrong and overturn it, so you push it through and say it was confirmed when it's clear to everybody it was wrong. Or a case like that.
If it's reviewed, the refs the refs aren't the ones that on review get to.
That's why I said to go to Toronto, and Toronto will go back.
Yep, sorry.
I did say that.
Yep, sorry.
But in a case like this Connor versus Connor, did I send you that meme, by the way? If not, I'll have to see if I can find it. This was not a case of the game's moving really fast and we just happened to miss it. You saw what was happening, and I have seen quotes from the refs saying, because of the situation of the game, we can either let it go like we did, or what do? You blow it dead, but Edmonton has the puck and they might score. Why are you picking and choosing and managing the game and calling calls differently because of the situation? It's either a penalty or it's not a penalty. If that penalty ends up hurting Edmonton, that's the way it goes. It was a penalty. And maybe that means we need to look at some of the rules in the offseason. I'm not saying we necessarily do. But we need to quit letting these referees make these kinds of decisions and managing the game and changing outcomes. I was watching a baseball game a couple of years ago, and there was some kind of call that was made that the announcers were pissed off about. Not because the call was wrong. They said, I can't believe it. You're going to call that as you're going to make that kind of a call in this situation? And it pissed me off. I don't care what situation the game is in. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. Call the penalty. The refs in the league only have themselves to blame for what happened during this game, what's been happening in other games. We've been having some real nasty hits and real nasty injuries. They only have themselves to blame for this because they are not doing their jobs. They are trying to do all these other extracurricular crap. They're making decisions that they have no right to make. Start calling the game. Start calling it right. And if that means we need to change the replay system and allow for better replays, for more replays, more, I don't care if you have to have two guys sitting in a booth in every NHL stadium with walkie-talkies talking to the refs on the ice. I don't care. If you need to do that to get it right, then do it and get it right. Because it's getting ridiculous this year. Every single game, I can point out at least 5 instances that was blatantly a wrong call. Every single game that I've watched. And I, for one, am surprised we haven't had more instances of this kind of crap going on. Because it's just bad, and there is no accountability.
No, and that's the thing, is I would even settle for better communication and clarity and transparency on what is going on, what's being communicated to the refs in these situations, because we know that, every day the refs are getting emails with videos of this is an example of this is an example of this, and, so that they can better understand what is and what isn't certain calls.
Yeah.
But that's all I know. We don't know the process and all the things that happen. There's no communication as to how this has helped, how this has changed and improved, so that the refs continue to improve. There's no understanding of the refs process, understanding, and viewpoint. We don't get to know the ref side of it. Like that, the refs aren't getting to stand up for themselves in these situations because no one ever gets to hear from them. We don't get to hear from them.
Yeah.
And it's going to come down to something like, there's all the people like McDavid should boycott the foreign nations, and I'm like, that's not going to happen. But these star players could start to try and do things like, you say the awards night, they don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, eh.
Yeah.
Like these are the faces of the league, and I'm not saying you have to treat them like they're Patrick Mahomes, but we got to do better than just saying thanks for everything you've done. Now we're gonna kick you in the nuts. Like it's. You gotta keep them happy without ruining the integrity of the game,
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can have that balance. I don't think you need to be the NFL with Mahomie.
I am still in shock. I watched the first half of that game and I could not watch the second half because it was that bad. I was in Buffalo Wild Wings and everybody was pissed. It was kind of hilarious, but that's a side note.
No,
I've seen a lot of criticism too because McDavid's agent came out and said he's going to start doing less media appearances and stuff as retaliation to the NHL.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about this.
He's getting a lot of crap because he's Mick Crybaby, and of course he would.
People have been calling them that this whole career.
I kind of felt that way when I first read it. I said, that's a little immature. Just take your penalty and be done with it. You deserved it. You cross-checked the guy. But then I started thinking about it. This is another case where I think two things can be true.
Uh-huh.
Shut up and take your suspension. You earned it. You deserve it. You don't have the right to complain about that. What you did was wrong.
And he's never claimed that he didn't deserve punishment.
Correct. But on the other hand, you're contractually obligated to have X amount of appearances or X amount of availability to the media after the game, whatever it is. Beyond that, the NHL isn't owed anything by Connor McDavid, by Nathan McKinnon, by Cale Makar, by any of these guys. They're doing it to help the game. They're doing it to help the league. They're doing it as a favor to the league. And yeah, if you want to start skipping that stuff, don't skip games. You don't get to skip 4 nations. I think that.
That is completely optional.
Yes, that's a whole different thing. I don't want to get into that one. I'll soapbox on that too. But yeah, stop doing some of these appearances. Do it. You don't want to show up to the awards show at the end of the year or after the season or whatever? Yeah, don't go. And then when everybody has to sit there and wonder, why did McDavid just win a trophy and he's not here? Why did McKinnon win a trophy and he's not here? Everybody's going to start wondering, and you're going to have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll bring change because once there's egg on their face, maybe they'll have to do something about it. But I just sent you a link. I know I've mentioned it before, but take a look at this. This is something I think needs to be implemented in the NHL. Unfortunately, this is just a couple of guys on the internet that do this, and this isn't an official thing. But these are scorecards that these guys do for umpires in Major League Baseball. And it keeps a lot of accountability. Now just click. Let's see if can I actually see the scorecards. Is it going to show them to me? I'm hoping so. Yeah, if you click just those tweets there, it'll bring up the graphic. Yeah, go back to the home page. Just click the left one there for the Pat
They're not
Hobart.
tweets. They're posts.
Ooh. Yeah, there you go. Mark Ripperger. So it shows the game and the situation and what's going on. So this was Game 5 of the World Series. Overall accuracy, 96%. 4.3 above his expected total throughout the year. It gives you that chart down there. This is what his strike zone looked like. So you can see he was a little bit inside, a little bit down and outside. But it was consistent. So I'm okay with that. I don't know where the numbers necessarily come up, but they come up with impactful missed calls, and they come up with plus minus. So if you look right up above where it says impactful missed calls, LAD minus 0.1.5 runs. So these guys, with whatever formulas they have, they figured out that his missed calls took 0.15 runs away from the Dodgers and gave 1.5 runs to the Yankees. You can argue how the math works. I don't know how the math works. Maybe their algorithms are crap. But this concept here, we are now able to look. These are all the missed calls that this umpire made in this game. This is how it affected the game. Why are we not doing this? Why are the leagues not doing this from an actual league perspective? Why is this two guys on Twitter that need to do this?
Well, that's what well, do we know that there's nothing like this for the league? That they're just like maybe this is on the umpire side and they just don't share it publicly.
That's a good point too.
Like we don't know. There's no transparency amongst.
Start showing it publicly.
Reffing in any sport that I know of.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Start showing it publicly. There's no reason not to show it to the public. Oh, but you might embarrass somebody. Don't care. I'm paying money to buy TV packages so I can watch these games. I'm paying money to go to the stadium and buy tickets and show up to this. People are betting money in the sports books and the sports market. You're willing to take away all that money and screw my ability to enjoy what I'm paying for because you don't want a bad umpire to be embarrassed or a bad linesman to be embarrassed. I don't want to hear that. If they're doing this, awesome. I need to see it. There needs to be transparency, and it actually needs to lead to something. If you get under a certain percentage for X number of games, then you get relegated to the minor leagues until you can get your crap together. And if you can't get your crap together, out you go. Go find a new line of work because this ain't for you. And if I was the NHL, if I was any of these leagues, I would be very publicly coming out saying, this is what we're going for, this is what we're pushing for, and this is what we're doing. And then when it doesn't happen, well, hey guys, we tried. But the umpires union pushed back and they said that they didn't want to have accountability. So you can't get mad at us for it. Get mad at them. They suck at their job and they're unwilling to have any accountability. So go get mad at them. Put the pressure on them. I would absolutely be throwing them under the bus for this. Publicly. Get people against them.
Yeah.
It's got to stop. Because I'll be honest, I mean, there have been a couple of nights where I'm watching games, it's like, this isn't fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There are nights where it's not fun and enjoyable to watch games. And I don't like that feeling.
Well, I once had a game as a kid where a coach got thrown out of the game. I had essentially all my coaches thrown out of the game because they were yelling at the refs because of how bad a job they were doing. But then the one coach that didn't yell at them ended up leaving instead of our head coach because both teams' coaches were yelling, and so the refs couldn't keep track of who they'd kicked out. And so, but the thing is, since we're kids, you have to have at least one coach on the bench. So one of them got to stay behind. So our assistant coach was like, "Oh yeah, it was me," so that our head coach could stay on the bench.
I love
he just had to shut up to the refs, but yeah, it was really funny because it was like so many people are yelling and screaming at the refs, and I mean we're like 15, right? So it's garbage refs, like it's refs for kids.
Refs
Yeah,
either,
no, those ones are gonna be terrible no matter what. But yeah, it was just really funny how our calm, cool, and collected assistant coach that was just chilling on the bench. He's like, "Oh yeah, it was me. Head coach, you stay. You get to stay. Ha ha." And it's like, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good segment. Good talks.
Yep.
I think we can go to our weekly matchup to end off the day. It's been good day, good conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So last week, or 2 weeks ago, we tied again. This is our second tie of the season. We both went 9-6 in our prediction on the day.
Killing me.
It's just, it'd be harder if it was any closer. I'd be concerned. So we're just so dialed in. Like, guys, if you followed any of us for betting advice, you'd be in the hole just as equally, most likely.
Pretty much.
Depending on which one of us you followed. But we've got like 12 games on the bracket today or something. So good amount. And our first one's a good banger.
Couple of these are tough.
Colorado at the Boston. Who are you picking? I'm picking Colorado.
I mean, it's a toss-up. Not because I think they're equal teams. I do think Colorado's a better team right now.
Yeah.
But Boston is one of those teams. It's like, today we're going to play like the greatest team in the league, and then tomorrow we're going to play like we're worse than the Sharks.
Yeah.
We have had a couple good days. A couple good games in a row here. I know we're only on a one-game win streak, but the ones we've lost haven't looked terrible. We also did have a shutout yesterday. I'll just go different from you. I'll take Boston.
Okay.
I'll bet on my
Buffalo,
boys.
Edmonton.
Easy. Sabres. Now that I'd memed about it, it's going to happen. Pittsburgh, Seattle, battle of the crap. This is the tank bowl of the day.
Battle of the crappin'.
Got him.
Trying to feast on some defenseless Penguins.
Clubbing Seals or something. Yeah, give me the Penguins.
I'm gonna take the Kraken.
Okay.
I still think the Kraken are close to being a wild card team. They're not there yet this year, but yeah. All right, New Jersey, Montreal.
New Jersey, easy.
I'm taking Montreal because they're just winning all the games they're not supposed to be.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. The one that confused us most when we were looking at it. So, guys, Toronto is playing in Ottawa today. Toronto is 10 points ahead in the standings. Tavares is hurt, but somehow Ottawa is slightly favored in the betting odds. Like it's
I wonder.
as close to even as you can get, but Ottawa apparently has the edge. I don't get it. I don't know what are they missing? Like I don't understand. I'm picking Ottawa just because of it. You know what?
I mean, so am I. But I wonder if Ottawa has like a considerably better home record than away record. And maybe that's slightly giving them an edge.
I don't know. Battle of Ontario.
I'm trying to look it up, but I'm not finding anything quickly here. So, Lightning and Wings. Give me Cooch. I'll take the Lightning.
Tampa Bay. LA versus Columbus.
Not a matchup I thought was going to be hard to decide.
They're both doing so well.
Yeah. Give me Columbus.
I was also going to take Columbus. Dallas at St. Louis.
Give me St. Louis.
Well, I'm Dallas. I'm always Dallas.
That's
Love
just
me
me
my stars.
trying to will that into existence. I'd like to see Dallas fall a couple games, give us a chance to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary.
Calgary at
Calgary.
Mini. I'm taking Mini.
You know how high I am on Minnesota, but they have not looked good the last couple games.
Well, they've been so injured.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they got Kaprizov back, and we still shut him out.
That was his
You
first
can't
game
cut
back,
him.
to be fair.
To be fair. Carolina, New York. Give me Carolina. When does Rantanen?
Not today. I don't think he'll be there today because it was so late of a trade yesterday. It'll be early next week that he's playing for him.
Yeah. Washington, Vancouver. Give me Washington.
Yeah. Nashville, Anaheim.
Give me Smashville.
Yeah, baby. Nashville, Smashville. I'm also picking Nashville, obviously. And now for the biggest debate of them all, Florida at San Jose. No matter what you pick, you lose. Will he finally? He's picking San Jose. He's willing to.
I can't do it.
Willing to sacrifice everything. His hate runs so deep.
It does. I am blinded by rage.
What? I'm gonna one day. At some point, I'm just gonna send you a pillow with Matthew Tkachuk's face on it, and it's gonna be so beautiful. And you'll love it. I'll get you a T-shirt. Heck, if I'm ever rich enough, I'll get you a Matthew Tkachuk jersey. Signed.
Don't do that.
Signed.
You will then have to. I will be video recording what I do to those things and sending it to you, and you don't want to see that.
Okay. Wow.
Poop may be involved.
Wow. It's boring. I was expecting a little more.
Boring.
I was expecting more fireworks.
I didn't say those wouldn't be involved afterwards. But do you really want to watch me poop? Putting that out there.
Why is that a question?
That's what I'm saying. You're like, oh, that's not that bad. Okay.
Well, no, I said no. I didn't say that. I was like, oh, that's lame. Like, it's too predictable. All right. Well, that concludes episode 13. Thank you all for joining us. Hope you skip those first 15 minutes or whatever that my mic was off. So have fun. Okay. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
See ya.